You want a war? You're gonna get one.
Forget the lies, the money. We're in this together and through it all. They said nothing's forever, and they refuse to see the change in me. Why won't they wake up? Come on, come on, come on. Let's get it out. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Live through my music, yeah.
Hey Yo Soldier, Reliving the War episode 241, the 9th of June 2000. This week we're also in Nashville, Tennessee, while Nitro comes from Billings, Montana. Nitro begins this week with a limo pulling up to the arena, and is that Ice Train? I think that's Ice Train. Ernest Miller's in charge tonight because Russo's at home hurt after taking a Steiner recliner when Thunder went off the air, and Eric Bischoff's away doing some sort of business in LA, probably serious business. Before Russo got attacked, he told Kevin Nash to back off from Jeff Jarrett or Scott Hall's contract would get terminated forever, but we'll talk about this a bit more later on. Also on Thunder this past week, that no good dirty dog David Flair was getting very personal with Miss Hancock, and he was caught by Daphne. This led to Daphne and Stacey having a fight. David Flair came down to scream at Daphne. Crowbar showed up to take a low blow from Dirty Dave, and a match took place between David and Crowbar where Mr. Barr got his head shaved. Looks like David is now with Miss Hancock, and yeah, I should have covered Thunder this past week. On the WWF side, we're going to see the King of the Ring this Sunday on pay-per-view, and as always, my review of the show, along with the next episode of Reliving the War, are now available on Patreon. Have a look if you want to see them early. Raw kicked off with a Kurt Angle vs Bubba Ray Dudley match to see who would advance to the King of the Ring quarterfinals, and Angle won this match clean as a whistle. Bubba was hurt after getting pushed off the SmackDown stage while in a dumpster, so Angle had the advantage here and he won with the Olympic Slam. We'll see Kurt at the King of the Ring this Sunday. This week's jam-up guy is Brian O'Reilly. Brian works at the iconic Red Rocks Amphitheatre and he makes sure to rep Smokey the Cat while on the job. He said to me that he hoped this box right here contained some big titties, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. Thank you very much, Brian. Shout out to all the staff at Red Rocks, and I've one final piece of serious business I need to get to, just on the subject of Smokey the Cat. Smokey plushies are going to hopefully come home to you guys very soon. I'm working with Makeshift to produce some Smokey plushies, and in order to get them made, I'll need your help. The way Makeshift works, these fuzzy little jam-up guys can only get made if enough people show interest through a petition, and that petition begins on the 1st of May. You can now sign up to get notified when the petition officially kicks off, so if you want a Smokey plushie, I'd highly recommend signing up for the petition notification. I'll include a link in the video description. These are a one and done deal, guys. When they're gone forever. So if you want one, sign up for the notification and I'll be sure to remind you guys again closer to the launch date. Okay, on Raw, we're kicking off with the McMahon-Helmsley regime promo. Nitro's being held hostage by Horace Hogan. Consider my flabber completely fucking gasted, folks, because Horace Hogan's kicking off Nitro with a promo. This will no doubt keep viewers tuned in for the remainder of the broadcast. Basically, Horace is tired of Uncle Hollywood's poor treatment. He's annoyed that Goldberg attacked Hulk, so Horace is out here to claim back some family honour, and Double H says he wants to be next. He wants to fight Goldberg. Ernest Miller shows up. He says Goldberg's too big of a star to fight Horace, which, yeah, you can't really argue with that. And Miller goes on to lay down the law when he says Scotty Steiner can't interfere in any matches for the remainder of his contract after what he did to Russo on Thunder. And speaking of contracts, Miller has Scott Hall's contract with him tonight. Kevin Nash and Scott Steiner show up at that very moment, and Nash tells Miller to make a few dreams come true tonight by booking Horace in a match against Goldberg, something that Cat actually agrees to do after saying a minute ago that Horace is too much of a jobber. And Steiner wants a match against Miller, but Miller says he's too good looking to wrestle Scott. Instead, Miller gives Scott a title shot against Jarrett tonight on Nitro, so yeah, Miller's quite easily swayed, isn't he? Nash says we aren't done yet. Kev wants Scott Hall's contract. Big Sexy wants to face Miller for the paperwork, and I guess Kev wants to make sure the contract doesn't get torn to shreds. And Miller has no choice but to agree to the match. He's a little scaredy cat. Jarrett's annoyed at Miller backstage for booking this title match, so the Cat makes Mike Awesome the special referee. And it also looks like Miller can't find Scott Hall's contract. What's going on? On Raw, Vince McMahon receives a fax from Big Linda. This can't be good for the McMahon-Helmsley faction. But we're going to find out what's written in the fax as the group make their way down to the ring. Triple H starts off by giving Patterson and Briscoe a hard time. These two jabronis have been doing a pretty terrible job recently. They can't get coffee, they can't even take a photo of Kane's sexy face. But there's no time to rip these boys a new one right now because Hunter, Shane and Vince have to focus on King of the Ring. Hunter reminds everyone that the regime has the advantage. Rock, Taker and Kane want to be #1 contenders so bad that they'll end up turning on each other. So Hunter's not really sweating the 6-man tag King of the Ring main event. Shane's promo gets interrupted by Daddy McMahon and he looks pretty concerned about this fax he received. He starts reading it out. Linda, the CEO of WWF, has questioned the size of the faction's grapefruits and she wants to see just how well the regime can function as a team. So she wonders if the King of the Ring main event should get changed up a little. Instead of Undertaker, Kane and Rock fighting for a chance to become #1 contender at the pay-per-view, Linda thinks Triple H's WWF title should be on the line, and if any faction member gets pinned at King of the Ring, then the belt will go to whoever gets the pinfall victory. Linda also said her husband's grapefruits have shrunk to the size of raisins, so Vince, feeling challenged by his own wife, announces that at King of the Ring, if he, Shane or Hunter get the win, then Triple H defends his belt against the King of the Ring winner at Fully Loaded. If Rock, Kane or Taker win, then the guy who gets the pinfall win will become the new WWF champion. And Triple H loses his shit here as Vince once again tries to prove a point to his wife. But hold up, there is a catch. Rock, Kane and Taker have to be successful in their matches tonight in order for this new provision to get put in place at King of the Ring. Kane faces the Hardy Boys, Undertaker faces Bill Buchanan and Bossman, and The Rock's gonna face Test and Albert. McMahon promises that there will be no interference during these matches. Triple H again says Vince is crazy, but all McMahon cares about is proving the size of his grapefruits to his meddlesome wife. Backstage, Hunter continues to rip into his dad-in-law as tensions continue to rise within the faction. X-Pac took on Chris Benoit in a King of the Ring match next on Raw. On Nitro, yes, 3 count versus the Young Dragons. The in-ring action on Raw was good. X-Pac missed the Bronco Buster and so Tori got on the apron to offer an assist. This didn't work out too well and X-Pac fell victim to a German suplex, but the match continued on with Benoit trying a crossface. Waltman makes it to the ropes, so Benoit goes for the headbutt. Pac moves out of the way, but the Dudleys show up to cause a distraction, and this allows Benoit to perform a flapjack followed by the crippler crossface. After Waltman gives up and after the bell, the Dudleys attack X-Pac. They aren't happy about that dumpster attack on SmackDown, so Road Dogg comes out to help his DX teammate, and the Dudleys end up getting destroyed. Even Tori gets a few boots in, and you 100% deserve this, Bubba. Trying to put innocent women through tables? That's psychotic behaviour, my guy. DX complained to Vince about the Dudleys interfering in their matches, so McMahon books a match for King of the Ring, a dumpster tables match featuring X-Pac, Road Dogg and Tori against the Dudley Boys. For DX to win, they gotta put the Dudleys in a dumpster. For the Dudleys to win, they have to put each member of DX through a table. Vince says this is all in the interest of fairness, and Triple H appears to say, yeah, that's real fair, Vince. On Nitro, Jamie Noble performs a head scissor takedown on Shane Helms before Kaz and Yang pull off tandem Asai moonsaults on Evan and Shannon. The boys get in the ring and 3 count pull off a double team neckbreaker, and Courageous comes in for a missile dropkick and a flapjack. Next we've got Shane Helms with a big diving sunset flip, and my god, actual good wrestling on Nitro. This is so rare nowadays. Kaz avoids a corner move and Yang shows some serious karate shit after getting tagged in, but Evan shows his opponent up a little with a twist and top rope splash, and our match ends with a triple team wheelbarrow facebuster from 3 count. Could honestly have watched this for another 20 minutes and I wouldn't have complained for a single moment. It gets even better too, because during their dance celebration, 3 count get attacked by ECW's Lance Storm. Lance shows off some incredible moves here before leaving again through the audience. So here we go folks, Storm is now part of WCW and he does end up being a highlight of these final days of the company. This is probably the biggest night of Horace's pathetic career, and he's out here trying to convince everyone that he actually has a chance against Goldberg. You're not fooling anyone, mate. Goldberg's shown arriving to the arena while David Flair's shown looking for Daphne. The name Flair and woman trouble just seems to go hand in hand. Next up we've got Johnny the Bull versus Vito on Nitro, and oh no, Eddie Guerrero versus Chyna in a King of the Ring match on Raw. Chyna doesn't want to be seen as Eddie's mamacita tonight. She wants Guerrero to take this match seriously, and she wants Guerrero to see her as a legitimate opponent. So Eddie takes this advice on board, and he still gives Chyna some roses in the ring, followed by a hug. Chyna doesn't look too amused. To ease things over, Chyna offers Eddie a handshake. Eddie decides to kiss her hand, and to hopefully get Eddie to snap out of it, Chyna slaps Latino heat, and here we go. Eddie won't punch his mamacita, but he sure will put her in a headlock. Chyna goes down after a shoulder block. She answers with an arm drag and a clothesline. Eddie then takes a powerbomb, but he gets a foot on the ropes. Eddie then has a chance to knock Chyna's lights out in the corner, and Chyna warns him not to do it. She's not using her relationship with Eddie to her advantage. She draws him into the corner with the promise of a kiss, and yeah, big mistake, Guerrero. Eddie takes the handspring back elbow. He gets lifted up by the balls for a military press slam, but when Chyna has the chance to hit a low blow, she hesitates. Eddie's Latino heat remains intact, and he takes this opportunity to roll up Chyna for the 1-2-3. Guerrero won fair and square, and Chyna is not happy. She sulks off like a sore loser, but come on, you were outsmarted, mamacita, take the L. The Mamalukes are now well and truly broken up. This match was for the hardcore title, and I haven't got a lot to say about it either, I'm sorry. I don't want to bore you guys going over all the spots, but the final Impaler DDT from Big Vito did look good. Johnny was unable to win the match, and so Vito is the undisputed hardcore champion. Still feel like it was a mistake to break these guys up though. Speaking of breakups, on Thunder, the Filthy Animals and New Blood turned on Billy Kidman. Billy explained that he helped Hogan last week just to get back at Eric Bischoff for pimping out Tori to Horace. So the Animals attacked him, and this means Billy is now once again a babyface. He's not recovering from that Hogan feud though, not a chance. Back to Nitro, and Terry Funk helped Johnny the Bull back to the locker room after the hardcore bout. So maybe WCW are positioning Johnny as a babyface too. It looks like G.I. Bro is leaving the Misfits. He reminds the MIA that Sting's out with an injury, DDP was ran out of the company, Flair got his head shaved, Hogan was destroyed by Goldberg, and generally the New Blood are kicking their asses. Mr. Bro feels like he has to go alone and take matters into his own hands, and so when Positively Kenyon went to the ring to make fun of DDP, G.I. Bro ran down to beat Chris up. Kenyon took a scissors kick followed by the Harlem sidekick, and once Chris left the ring, Booker took his fatigues off and he became Booker T once again. The G.I. Bro run is now over, and it was all really a big load of nothing, wasn't it? It's funny how this always gets brought up when it only lasted a couple of weeks. Over on Raw, Eddie's trying to understand why Chyna's so mad at him. She did say she wanted a match after all, and she's acting like a complete dickhead right about now. Eddie tries to give Chyna some flowers, she doesn't want them. He tries to give her some chocolates, but she's on a diet. Only one thing to do at a time like this. Yeah, the old puppy technique works every time. Chyna's so enchanted by the good boy that she totally forgets Eddie just pinned her inside the ring, so all's well that ends well. Next on Nitro, it's the match you came to see, Horace Hogan vs Goldberg. On Raw, Edge takes on Chris Jericho in another King of the Ring match. Christian said he wouldn't be in Edge's corner tonight because he's got a meeting with the editor of Tiger Beat magazine. Christian hopes E&C can get on the cover, and Edge is totally 100% cool with this. So we had no interference at all, and Jericho said Edge really should get the cover of Tiger Beat magazine because no one knows more about beating than this Tiger known as Edgeworth right here. The match itself was pretty good. As a matter of fact, the King of the Ring matches on this episode of Raw were better than the ones happening at the pay-per-view. At one point in the match, the cameraman got in the way, though Edge was able to turn this in his favour after spearing Jericho on the outside. Inside the ring, Jericho takes an electric chair facebuster. He's able to get back up and dropkick Edge in mid-air. Edge managed to counter Y2J's double powerbomb, but moments later, Edge was put in the walls of Jericho. Edge tops out and Chris advances in the King of the Ring. Good match, and keep in mind I'm glossing over quite a lot here. Before we look at Horace vs Goldberg, we see David Flair backstage and he's finally located Daphne. He wants to talk things over it seems, but he instead gets a slap in the face, somehow making David's rosy red cheeks even more rosy. Horace is in the ring waiting to get annihilated by Goldberg, and God love him, he does try early on to stop Billy Boy in his tracks. One clothesline later and Hogan Jr. is on the mat. And think about how bad this booking decision really is. You want people to boo Goldberg and you put him in a match with Horace Hogan? Yeah, that's fucking smart, isn't it? No, actually, here.
That's gonna be a good little piece of business.
Should have put that in earlier. Goldberg beats the crap out of Horace outside the ring, though to his credit, Hogan Jr. does get to use a steel chair. Goldberg takes a few shots, and back inside the ring, he takes a big boot. But Billy Boy stands up, he looks at Horace, and our main man defends the Hogan family honour by taking a spear. One jackhammer later, and Goldberg picks up the 1-2-3, and I bet you didn't see that coming, did you? Goldberg applied a post-match chinlock, and that shows us that Goldberg means serious, and I mean fucking serious business. Triple H tells Bossman and Buchanan not to mess up their next match. Hunter's whole reason for existing on this earth is currently on the line, and these boys need to beat The Undertaker. Bossman's like, don't worry chief, we've got it. And I have absolutely no idea why Bossman and Buchanan are back together, and I don't care either. But these two gotta take on the American Badass in our next match while Kevin Nash wrestles Ernest Miller for Scott Hall's contract. Miller was able to find Scott's contract earlier on, and he put it inside a magical briefcase. Haven't seen one of these in a while. Ernest decides to handcuff the briefcase to the slender wrist of Mark Madden while the key goes around the cat's neck. Big Sexy makes his entrance, the cat starts acting the maggot, Nash's clothesline looks terrible as our match gets underway, and there's that Kevin Nash corner offense we all know and love. Miller gets out of the ring, he wants someone to come out and help him, but no one shows up. He tries asking for help on the microphone, and he takes Madden's headset to also plea for some assistance, but I guess no one actually likes Ernest Miller. Back in the ring, Kev ends up taking a low blow, and Cat follows up with a second low blow. Nash just ignores this blatant ball abuse by hitting a big lariat, and that's our match over. The fans get on their feet for the jackknife, and so Kevin Nash has won his buddy's contract, and Scott Hall must be coming back, right? Well, Nash takes the key and he opens up the briefcase. Inside the briefcase are a few Ernest Miller 8x10s, which I'm sure are worth a fortune right now. Nash says, oh no, and he goes to attack Miller again, but Goldberg appears on the screen. In Luke, Goldberg has the paperwork. Goldberg says he's got Nash's little girlfriend's contract. If Kev wants it, he can come get it at Bash at the Beach. And Goldberg proceeds to munch the contract like it's a delicious hamburger or maybe some corn. If Nash is supposed to get the contract back at the pay-per-view, then how exactly is he going to do that? Is he going to go snorkeling through Goldberg's wet shit after Billy Boy takes a dump? Backstage, Kevin tells Mike Tenay that Big Sexy's the only guy to ever beat Goldberg, totally forgetting that Bret Hart also beat Goldberg twice, but it doesn't matter. Nash is going to win his friend's contract at Bash at the Beach, so we have another match booked for the pay-per-view. Tenay then reminds Scotty Steiner about his upcoming match against the Chosen One tonight. Scott says that he's actually the Chosen One and Jeff Jarrett can kiss Big Papa Pump's ass. Over on Raw, Rock and Kane watch this Undertaker vs Bossman and Buchanan match in the back. If Undertaker loses this match, then Rock and Kane might as well go home. No real point in trying to build up any suspense because the outcome was extremely predictable here. Bossman had the chance to hit Taker with his nightstick, but he decided against it and Buchanan took a chokeslam. The Undertaker wins via pinfall, and so the dead man's done his part in securing a title shot. Kane and Rock now have to do their part. On Nitro, Lieutenant Loco defended his cruiserweight title in a triple threat match against Rey Mysterio and The Artist. The Filthy Animals cut a promo before the match where Disco once again tried to be down with the kids.
What you gonna do? Word to your mother.
Oh yeah.
And the MIA came out too to back up Chavo. The highlight of this one was The Artist getting teabagged by Lieutenant Loco because he didn't move out of the corner in time, and Loco ended up retaining after hitting The Artist with his Tornado DDT. After the bout, Paisley wanted to hit Major Guns, but she ended up hitting Tigress, and yes, this does set up a three-way match in the future, that future being in August 2000. What? Daphne has actually forgiven David Flair, and all it took were a bunch of black roses. Keep that one in your back pocket, gentlemen, when your missus catches you sniffing around other women. The two then go to leave the arena, but David tells Daphne to head back to the hotel room and prepare the champagne. She goes to drive off, she then slams the brakes on, and yeah, the dirty dick and David Flair run straight back to Stacy, and Daphne sees the whole thing.
He's an animal.
An animal! An animal!
There's a conveniently placed monitor where Daphne watches her boyfriend get a bit frisky with Miss Hancock. What does David Flair have that you don't have? Probably a massive knob. Speaking of knobs, Tank Abbott and Rick Steiner took on Stasiak and Palumbo in our next Nitro match. On Raw, Scotty 2 Hotty takes on Rikishi. Yeah, these King of the Ring matches are really testing a few friendships tonight, but Scotty and Rikishi are still cool before and after the bout. Scotty gets put on the mat to begin with, but he comes back with no fear. A super kick only gets Scotty a 2 count as we see Grandmaster Sexay watching in the back. I wonder who the Grandmaster wants to win this one. Scotty performs a dropkick that again only gets him a 2, and Big Keish answers with a power slam followed by a leg drop. Keish goes for his corner hip attack, but Scott moves out of the way. This gives Mr. Hotty the chance to pull off his worm in the middle of the ring, but it's not enough to win the match. We continue on with a Samoan drop from Rikishi. Rikishi then delivers that corner attack he was looking for earlier on. And Rikishi spares his buddy from a stink face, but he does deliver a bonsai drop. Rikishi's going to the King of the Ring pay-per-view, and after the bout, the Big Oos gets beaten up by Val Venus. Val's now using that crappy dance music, by the way, that's nowhere near as good as his previous saxophone theme. Grandmaster Sexay runs down for the save, and even though he takes a hit, Val Venus does leave the ring afterwards. Over on Nitro, the team of Stasiak and Palumbo are now known as The Perfect Event, and this is such a bad name, isn't it? There's nothing witty about it at all. The tag team titles are up for grabs, and we all get treated to some refined, technical, and downright beautiful wrestling from Tank Abbott. This guy sucks so much, and I don't care if he's a former UFC fighter or not, he wasn't a good pro wrestler. Rick Steiner, on the other hand, is still a great powerhouse wrestler during this time period, but I'll admit to preferring a babyface dogface gremlin over a heel one. Still, his suplexes and slams look fantastic, and the crowd still pop when he performs these moves. Tank does leave his partner high and dry here so he can attack a fan in the audience. A fan that held up a sign that said 3 count sucks. Weird. And for a moment, it looked like Rick was going to make easy work of the perfect event all on his own. After a few suplexes, he went upstairs for a Steiner Bulldog, but Palumbo used his muscle flexor and Rick lost the match after a double pancake. While watching the King of the Ring again for this week's pay-per-view review, I took note of how good the WWF's tag division was in comparison to WCW's. Some good wrestlers work in tags in WCW, no doubt, but there's just no excitement regarding the division itself. I would definitely like to see more of Chuck Palumbo, and I honestly think he's being held back a little by competing in tag matches. Undertaker gives his brother a pep talk on Raw. He tells him to show no mercy to Matt and Jeff Hardy, and that match is up next, while over on Nitro we've got a Vampiro and Kiss Demon promo. The Kiss Demon seen backstage with Asia, the woman, not the continent. And because Vampiro attacked Asia on Thunder, Dale Torborg says he's given up the whole demon thing. Spending time with his girlfriend is more important. Yeah, these two are a couple, by the way. You learn something new every day. Asia says she doesn't blame Vampiro, she blames him, and I can only assume the him Asia's referring to is the elusive lampshade head from last week. Vampiro comes to the ring and he says he thought the demon had a lot of potential. Both he and the demon like makeup, they both like rock and roll, they like fire and they like mayhem. Now that the demon's leaving, Vampiro wants to call Dale Torborg out along with his fiancée, Asia. Yeah, fiancée, there you go. Dale and Asia come out. Vampiro says fans should respect Dale's wishes, but he wonders if Torborg feels a little empty now that something so close to him has gone away. The lights then go out, they come back on, and Asia's disappeared. Spooky. The lights go out again, and this time it's Vampiro who disappears. He then appears on the big screen, and we see Mr. Piro driving off in a hearse. All very cool and all very well pulled off, but it's the Kiss Demon we're talking about here. Not throwing shade at Dale Torborg, because I've pointed out before that he seems like a really nice guy and all, but the Kiss Demon was nothing more than a failed contractual obligation from Eric Bischoff. Why he's still on TV, I have no idea. Over on Raw, again, the outcome of this match feels way too predictable. I do like the idea of Kane and company having to fight for their King of the Ring title shot, but it was a foregone conclusion who was going to win in both the Undertaker and Kane's matches. I mean, there's no point in a Rock vs TNA main event if the brothers don't win their bouts, you know. Rock and Taker watch on in the back. This is the face I make when watching Nitro. Matt and Jeff tried their best to damage the Big Red Machine, but they had absolutely no luck. It took a bit too long for the Hardys to realise they'd have much more success double teaming the big man, but even then, Kane was still able to overcome the brothers. On the outside, the Hardys did a little better with Matt pulling off that sick DDT again. Don't know why he didn't keep this in his moveset a bit longer. And Matt also saved his brother from a chokeslam, which allowed Jeff to get up and perform a somersault plancha. Back in the ring, the Hardys pull off their double team leg drop. This only gets them a 1 count. And Kane then has the opportunity to perform a tilt-a-whirl power slam, but yeah, Kane was a bit pissed off here, I think. The botching doesn't stop here though. The final spot of the match was supposed to feature a whisper in the wind, but Jeff slipped and the fall looked pretty bad. Kane immediately chokeslams Matt after this mistake, and the Big Red Machine wins the match. Way too messy for guys of this caliber in my unprofessional opinion, though they don't call them high risk moves for nothing. Triple H freaks out backstage. Vince says everything's gonna be alright. But as soon as Vince leaves, Hunter gives his wife a hard time over Daddy McMahon. Vince is screwing everything up here, and you gotta admit, Triple H makes a pretty good point. On Thunder, the Triple Threat reunited when Chris Candido and Bam Bam Bigelow joined forces with Shane Douglas. These guys are taking on Buff Bagwell and KroniK in our next Nitro match, while on Raw, the Holly Cousins do battle once again. Officially, Douglas and company don't get called the Triple Threat when working in WCW, though they do keep a lot of their old mannerisms and taunts. Shane challenges Buff Bagwell to a match of Bagwell's choosing at Bash at the Beach, and Candido and Bigelow are going to go for the tag team titles at a future date. Candido does indeed have his arm in a sling, and yes, he is booked for the 6-man tag match even though he doesn't get tagged in once. The match started off with Douglas and Clark. Shane got in a bit of offense, but Big Adam Bomb ended up completely destroying the franchise. The more times I see this guy in the ring, the more I think everybody dropped the ball with him. The crowd chants "franchise sucks" as Adams hits Shane with a full Nelson slam. Kinda funny seeing this after the bravado Shane displayed in the pre-match promo. So Douglas tags out, and this allows Bigelow and Candido to do some damage to Bagwell in the heel corner. Bigelow steamrolls Buff in the opposite corner before Douglas comes back in. Buff's definitely the punching bag here tonight, and Shane makes him pull some funny faces for the kids in the front row. Eventually Bagwell comes back with a double arm DDT, and WCW are once again using those stupid sound effects for high impact moves.
Knee, drops it.
Why they do this for some moves but not all is an absolute mystery, and why they're even doing it in the first place is a bigger mystery. The match breaks down. Bigelow delivers a rough double DDT to KroniK, but the big boys come back with a double shoulder block before signalling for the high times. Bam Bam gets planted on the mat, and then Candido, who really reminds me of Crash Holly right now, hits Clark with a nightstick before leaving the ring. This doesn't affect Brian a single bit, but it does cause KroniK to chase Candido up the ramp. Buff delivers the blockbuster to Bigelow, Bagwell wins the match via pinfall, and after the bell, Douglas launches an attack. Bagwell ends up taking the Pittsburgh plunge before KroniK run back down, but the damage has been done. The damage to my sanity. This is another King of the Ring match on Raw to find out who's going to the quarterfinals. Crash Holly versus Bombastic, Bully Balls, Hardcore, Softcore, Metalcore, Grindcore, Bastard, Sparky, Bum Plug, Thurman, Racecar, NASCAR, Bucktooth, Chuckle, Fuck, Hairline, Buddy, Bobby, Holly. Crash starts off with a power slam followed by a top rope crossbody as Jim Ross tells us that this is not a hardcore match. Thought that went without saying, but Crash continues to make his cousin look like a jabroni, which isn't hard to do to be fair. Hardcore finally comes back with a fallen powerbomb. This gets followed up with Bombastic Bob kicking his cousin a little south of the border. Crash then goes down after a lariat, and Bob delivers a few open hand slaps in the corner which didn't look too pleasant. Crash can't get back into the match, and it looks like Hardcore has it all wrapped up. That is, until the Stooges walk down to the ring and Patterson tries to intimidate Hardcore from the apron. Hardcore decides to leave the ring to go after Pat, but this allows Jerry Briscoe to attack Crash with his super soft 2x4, resulting in Hardcore Holly getting DQ'd. Crash advances in the King of the Ring, but Hardcore isn't happy. Bob attacks Patterson in the ring, but while this goes on, Briscoe decides to cover Crash. Another referee shows up to count the pinfall, so while Crash is advancing in the King of the Ring, he also just lost his Hardcore Championship. Backstage, the Stooges celebrate with a little champagne. Mike Chioda even gets a little drink. And Patterson decides to blind Briscoe by pouring the champagne over his head and face, and he then breaks the bottle over Briscoe's head. Patterson screwed over his Stooge buddy just so he could win the Hardcore title, and this is going to lead to one of the worst WWF pay-per-view matches of the entire Attitude Era. It all happens at King of the Ring this Sunday. Backstage, Stephanie tells her old boyfriend Tess that he better get the job done against The Rock tonight, and when Tess says whatever, Triple H pie faces him. I don't know guys, but I think Tess could probably have Triple H in a one-on-one fight. The Rock's well aware of what's at stake tonight, but Rock isn't going to win for Kane, he's not going to win for The Undertaker, he's not going to win because he hates the faction, he's going to win because he's the people's champ. Rock doesn't have long blonde hair like Test or a pierced anus like Albert, but he does tell TNA to bring it in our main event, and that main event is up next. Rock vs TNA to make the King of the Ring main event a championship match. On Nitro we've got Jeff Jarrett vs Scotty Steiner. Remember, Mike Awesome's also serving as our match referee, and man, it's so hard to get excited for Nitro main events, isn't it? I've said this before, but it's so annoying because there's some good talent involved in the WCW main event scene, and they're being booked so badly. Scott was giving Ernest Miller a hard time before Jarrett jumped him from behind. The cat goes on commentary as the match gets underway. And if Scott wins this one, it'll be Scotty Steiner vs Hulk Hogan at Bash at the Beach. Already sounds way more appealing than Hogan vs Jarrett. Scott's manhandling Jarrett right now, you love to see it. And the match goes to the outside after Jarrett takes a Steiner line. The Chosen One uses a steel chair to swing things in his favour, and Jeff decides to put his hands on Medeja. So she jumps on the world champion's back, and this allows Scott to hit Jeff with a chair shot. From here we go into the audience, so we can skip this part of the match. Back in the ring, Jarrett falls victim to a press slam, and Scotty's looking really good right about now. A low blow changes all that though, and the crowd are now chanting asshole at Double J. The match slows down with a Jarrett sleeper, but Scott fires back with a vertical suplex and a power slam. WCW are once again piping in noises, and it's a bit distracting if I'm honest. Steiner performs a belly to belly, this gets followed up with a Steiner recliner, and Ernest Miller tells Mike Awesome to break the hold. This is now an outlawed move, ladies and gents, so the move gets broken up with a chair shot. Awesome and Jarrett decide to double team Scott, though Scott's able to deliver a double clothesline. He then puts Awesome in the recliner, and this leaves Big Papa Pump wide open for a guitar shot. Jarrett covers Steiner, Mike counts the pinfall, and Jeff retains in our Nitro main event. Jarrett and Awesome leave prematurely, allowing Scott Steiner to attack the Kid and put him in the Steiner recliner. When the heels come back down to the ring, Scott takes both Jarrett and Awesome out with ease, so here comes Billy Boy Goldberg with a spear to Big Papa Pump. The ring's quickly filling up with garbage, but the crowd does pop for Kevin Nash showing up. Nash attacks Jarrett, Awesome and Miller, but he's unable to get his hands on Goldberg, and that's how Nitro ends, ladies and gents. Every week I feel like I have to apologise for WCW. So, can The Rock overcome Test and Albert in our Raw main event? He's making it look easy at the opening bell as he sends both Albert and Test to the outside while the crowd go crazy. Using the commentary table to bash some head seems to be a Rock trademark these days, but he soon gets put in his place after a clothesline from Test. We see Undertaker and Kane watching in the back as the match continues. Rock takes a big boot from Test before Albert delivers a sidewalk slam. Albert then says Rock isn't the great one. He is. Yeah. And in comes Test, who allows Trish Stratus to choke Rock out for a bit. Trish tries to interfere again. Rock grabs her by the hair this time. Test tries to take advantage, but Rock performs a swinging neckbreaker. After a DDT, Rock covers Test, the referee's distracted by Trish. Albert comes in to hit Rock with the ring bell, but the People's Champ stays in the match. Rock sells the belt shot like a certain wood from a certain hood, and Test takes a rock bottom. When Albert comes in, Rock lays the smackdown on both guys as, yeah, I'll say it, as TNA pretty much get buried in this match. Albert gets sent to the outside, Test takes the People's Elbow, Rock wins via pinfall, and that means Triple H's title will be on the line this Sunday at King of the Ring. Hunter reacts exactly how you'd imagine him to. McMahon tells Hunter to calm down and just wait until SmackDown. But the story we've got here is that both teams heading into the King of the Ring main event are not on the same page. The babyfaces have the rather individual goal of winning the WWF Championship, and Triple H is losing faith in Mr. McMahon. There were things I liked on Nitro this week, including 3 Count versus the Young Dragons and the David Flair nonsense, but the show nosedived during our number 2. Raw had a predictable story going on with Kane, Rock and Taker trying to win their matches to set up the King of the Ring main event, but Raw was still better than Nitro. Raw's just more pleasant to watch, whereas Nitro's all disjointed. You'd understand Nitro a bit better if you were on crack every Monday night or writing video scripts on the show each and every week, but hey, what mental case would ever do that, eh? Raw's on 137 points, Nitro's on 80, and we've got 23 ties. In the TV ratings, Raw wins with a 5.8, Nitro continues to sink low with a 2.7. The King of the Ring tournament is up next, and if you want to see it right now along with the next episode of Reliving the War, head over to my Patreon page. You'll see both videos and other Wrestling Bios videos early, completely free of ads, and free of edits I've had to make so WWE doesn't come after me for, celebrating their company's history. We'll crown a new King of the Ring at the pay-per-view, we'll see DX and the Dudleys get it on once again, there's a good 4-way elimination match for the tag team belts, and of course we've got the big 6-man tag main event for the WWF Championship. Join me then, and remember to check out this video description to bring home your very own Smokey the Cat. Thank you so much for watching, folks. Have a brilliant weekend, and I'll see you all on Sunday for the pay-per-view. Please take care.